KRO 7 News at 5, 3 days in the dark, a pinpoint alert day, wind adding insult to injury after the bomb cyclone.
We are tired of not essentially having a home.
Trees on top of homes, the new challenges families are facing as they try to recover.
Plus, shelves bare and groceries gone bad right before Thanksgiving.
If you're looking for food, I would probably come back.
Where efforts to restore power stand.
And an Amtrak impaled. The close call for an engineer caught in the storm. KRO 7 News at 5 starts right now. And it is a pinpoint alert day in western Washington. A final round of very chaotic weather heading to a trail of damage from Tuesday's bomb cyclone. Taking a live look now at the coast, showing those winds. Ooh, they're still whipping in Westport, and it comes as people try to recover from the very powerful winds that knocked out power for hundreds of thousands of people, left dozens hurt, and killed at least 2. Thanks for joining us. I'm Elle Thomas.
I'm Monique Minglavin. Now, we may almost be out of the woods, but the long-term effects of these storms, well, they're starting to set in here. Our team has you covered from all angles. First, Eric Thomas is in Bellevue, and Eric, lots of grocery stores struggling with power outages as well. So you check to see what's in stock, what's not, as we look toward Thanksgiving.
That's right, and as we found out firsthand, grocery stores like the one you see behind me, which was out of power as recently as last night, although it has been restored, have been struggling in the wake of Tuesday's weather, doing everything they can to restock shelves with Thanksgiving less than a week away. Things should be back to normal ahead of next week and Thanksgiving. Live for now from Factoria, Eric Thomas, KRO 7 News.
Should be back to normal. Let's hope so. Well, a Snohomish County family says they are desperate for a break after a tree fell on their home during Tuesday's storm. As KRO 7's Brooke Griffin explains, this is the second time in 2 years this has happened.
And Chief Meteorologist Morgan Palmer joining us now in the Weather Center. Morgan, so many people in those hard-hit areas, they just want a break here.
Right. We'll get some more rain over the next few days, but the strong easterly winds, they're done. They settled down late this morning, and they're not going to be back anytime very soon. As we take a look at Snohomish County right now, we have some showers rolling across Snohomish County and Lake Stevens. That'll continue. Had a rumble of thunder around Paulsbo earlier. So we look at the coast, we could have a rumble of thunder, stroke of lightning as well over the next few hours. Winds, though, are still pretty strong. Clocking a 55-mile-an-hour wind gust around Hoquiam and north and west of Everett. The wind still touching 40 or over 40. Let's go to 6 to 8 tonight. You can see on the pinpoint wind tracker, best chance of those winds over 40 miles an hour in the red from the coast down along the strait, but primarily areas south of Highway 101 toward the mountains. And also, again, from about Snohomish County north through the islands, especially if you're right on the water up to Bellingham. 11 o'clock tonight, the winds will calm down just a bit, and they'll be much more tame from the Seattle area south. As we head toward tomorrow morning at daybreak, still gusty along the north coast, but the wind advisories will come to an end Saturday morning along the coast and north of Everett. A look ahead to Thanksgiving and hopefully some drier times coming up.
I'm Gary Horton at the KRO 7 Live Desk. Puget Sound Energy sent an open letter to hundreds of thousands of customers saying, quote, "We know you're frustrated, but the system was so strong that came in, they say was comparable to a hurricane and did unprecedented damage to their high voltage system. They say many of the long distance lines that carry the power are damaged in very, very remote places." So let's take a look. Statewide, they say 141,284. That's what they know about, folks. But we're going to go into PSE. Here is that explanatory letter. But when you go down here and you move up, the vast majority of those customers are right in this power line corridor here. It could be about 121,000. That's what we know about. So PSA sent us a few photos showing some of their 143 line crews all working at the same time. They say they have crews from Idaho, from Oregon, and Canada. They also say they do not have a specific information timeline for a lot of people in King County because of the extent of the damage on their transmission system. Those are the big lines that feed all the little lines. Now, that implies a lot of people out there might be in the dark still by tomorrow and beyond until further notice. I am one of them, so I share your chill. Stay tuned. That's the latest from the Live Desk. I'm I'm Gary Walker.
I like that he can still bring some levity to it, though, Gary. Thank you. And we do have Andrew Padula with Puget Sound Energy with us right now.
Yeah, he's joining us on the phone. Thank you for being with us, Andrew. You know, people are starting to get a little bit impatient. Gary was just explaining to us how these big kind of centers that you haven't been able to get to have been really damaged. So do you have a timeline, at least, for being able to get to those points and giving an updated estimate for when people will have their power back on?
Sure. We've made some significant progress, though, I will say, restoring some of those transmission and substation lines, getting those things back on. But we're finding a lot of extensive damage still, not just in those transmission, but even the distribution lines, the ones that feed into the communities. So we're going to have to make repairs to those as well. Our goal is still trying to make that restoration effort and have people back on by tomorrow. But again, some things may delay that.
You know, Andrew, right now we are still looking at about 131,000 outages. Is tomorrow a realistic restoration timeline at this point, or should we expect to see an update on that soon?
Well, we're hoping that tomorrow is still realistic. We're going to continue to work as best we can and as safely as we can throughout the night to make sure everyone's power is back on. We are finding, though, that the east side is one of the hardest hit areas. Our crews are saying the damage is comparable to the worst storms of past decades. And some of these areas have underground power. There might be damage to those sections that we have to find, and that could also delay restoration. So we're really, really trying, but we're not sure how that's going to turn out.
And so grateful for your crews who are doing great work out there, but people are getting a little bit frustrated. They're checking the website. They keep on seeing the times change. Is there a way that they can get a really good estimate just from what they're seeing themselves about when they may get the power back on?
Sure. Well, we are aware of some of the issues with the outage map. It sort of reflects on the customers where their power has been restored. Maybe it's not. That is updated based on the information that's being uploaded to the system. Sometimes they get brought up if a substation is brought up, and then that shows that it's on, and it may not be on. So there's a lot of confusion with it. Honestly, the outage map right now is the best tool that we're able to share with our customers to try and keep monitoring that. We're going to try to keep updating those ETRs as soon as we can provide, hopefully, sooner numbers of timing for tomorrow or later today for some of these areas. I know North region is supposed to be up later this evening or tonight. So I just ask customers to just bear with us, and we're going to keep doing the best we can.
Yeah, at least the winds are starting to settle down. Andrew with Puget Sound Energy, thank you so much for joining us and giving us the update. Well, despite the progress, outages remain a problem for several school districts. Issaquah school officials say they will be on cleanup duty this weekend, and estimates show power should be restored for them tomorrow afternoon, just like everybody else who's been checking. But for now, it's expected classes will resume on Monday.
And business owners also getting creative to reopen after the storm and quite literally keep those lights on. Meow Cat Rescue in Kirkland did not let the power outage stop them. They put up battery-charged lights so they could still hold appointments and get 6 cats into forever homes. About 2 hours after posting those pictures, they posted these. The power came back. They're back to business as usual.
Fantastic. Well, not a normal commute here for sure. Look at that. Ooh, yeah, a driver crashes their car onto that rooftop. We'll tell you how they got into that situation.
Plus, low-income families left behind. A state funding problem puts a pause on preschool programs.
They will not succeed as well in school.
At 5:30, we break down what's on the chopping block.
But first, a shortage of homes sends prices spiking, so we show you the huge difference in how far your money goes across Western Washington. Tonight, a primary showdown in Western Washington.
As you decide who defines our state's future.
Our streets need to be safe for everybody.
People want real solutions to the problems we're facing.
The governor, attorney general, and seats in Congress all up for grabs.
This is going to be a pretty big year. Make your voice heard.
And we have you covered, tracking your biggest decisions before November. Cairo 7 special primary coverage starts right now.
And thank you for joining us this primary election night. I'm Aaron Wright.
And I'm Monique Minglovin, and tonight is all about narrowing the field. The top 2 candidates from each race will move on to the general election this November, and that's regardless of party. So we've got you covered on the big races. Of course, at the top here, the governor's race, the attorney general right behind as well, and both changing leadership for the first time in 12 years. Plus, key House races up in the air. A possible 2022 rematch in Flip District 3. And in District 4, 2 Trump-backed Republicans looking to take the seat of the incumbent Republican who voted to impeach him.
The final rush is in to get those ballots counted. We've got a live look at the King County election headquarters on the left. We're seeing workers busy counting and collecting on the right. What it looks like outside is you've just got a few minutes to get that ballot in and get it counted. Ballot boxes close right at 8 p.m., so the clock is ticking. Once they're collected, we're going to start seeing those results come in. And we're going to have you covered as soon as they do. So let's get out to our teams working to have you covered tonight. We've got all the angles and breaking down all the issues to help decide these races. We also have our political analysts, they're experts too, right here in studio to provide perspective. Crystal Fincher and Alex Hayes both run their own political consulting firms. They spent the past decade advising Democrats and Republicans running for local office.
Now, the biggest race on the ballot is the one that will decide who leads our state. Washington is getting its first new governor in 12 years, and the 4 candidates with the strongest showings are Bob Ferguson and Mark Mullet on the Democratic side, Dave Reichert and Semi Bird on the Republican side. Now, the most recent statewide poll from the Northwest Progressive Institute shows Ferguson and Reichert far ahead in this race. Ferguson in the lead, 11 percentage points ahead of Reichert. Whoever moves on to the November election and wins will take on some of the state's most persistent problems, of course. Now, KIRO 7's Brandon Thompson is live with the candidates' plans to tackle those problems. Brandon? And for the first time in 12 years, voters also pick a new attorney general. As Bob Ferguson runs for governor, 3 people are looking to fill his shoes at the state's top legal office. Republican Pete Serrano, he's the mayor of Pasco. Democrat Nick Brown, he's a former U.S. attorney for Western Washington. And Democratic State Senator Manka Dhingra. Now, the most recent statewide poll from Northwest Progressive Institute shows Serrano in the lead. As the only Republican, he appears to have unified support from his party's voters. A competitive race on the Democratic side. Brown and Dhingra just 2 percentage points apart.
And Monique, we're also closely following our state's congressional districts. All 10 in play tonight. All are on the ballot right now. Democrats hold 8 of them, but a lot can happen tonight. So let's take a look at a big swing district. District 3 first. Incumbent Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, who came out of nowhere to edge a razor-thin win over Trump-endorsed Joe Kent. Democrats have held this seat for 60 years. A lot of results should start rolling in the next 30 minutes. A lot of work to do, but we'll keep you posted. That's the latest from the live desk. I'm Gary Horker.
It's going to be an exciting night, Gary. Thank you. And there is a lot to unpack. That's why we bring in our political consultants, Crystal Fincher, Alex Hayes, joining us here in studio. Guys, thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, and get comfortable because we have a lot to talk about, right? Well, let's move along also because Ferguson is running for governor here. Of course, that opens up the AG's office. And we're looking at Serrano. He's in the lead in polling. Of course, he has all of the Republican support behind him. But what are you expecting for Nick Brown and Manka Dhingra, and how tight it's going to be tonight?
You know, all indications are that this race is going to be tight. Democrats have a good problem here with 2 highly qualified candidates. And so really it's about whose vision has most closely connected with the base of voters. But overall, this is going to be the office that's in charge of protecting women's rights here in this state, of making sure that we carry on the legacy that Bob Ferguson created with holding corporations accountable. This is a big, consequential office, and either one of them would be excellent picks.
And I just wonder, Alex, is this part of the, we're looking at the top 2 finishers, and you've got 2 Democrats both trying to get on the ticket in November and both running neck and neck at this point. Is this going to be, I mean, right now it's got to be a problem for both of them. How do they move forward, whoever wins this?
Well, one of them, I mean, at the end of the day, the state does have a significant Democratic advantage in terms of its population. And so whoever advances into the general is going to feel pretty good about that. I will say that Brown's record of being a little bit more centrist probably means he's a greater threat to Serrano. Serrano has a good record of being part of major litigation, supporting public safety. Dhingra has a pretty hostile record to public safety. And so if that really is the topic that people are voting on, and it generally is keeping everyone in the state safe from crime that we think about the Attorney General's office playing a role in, it is only under Ferguson that it's become such a partisan office. Previously, like under Governor Gregoire, when she was Attorney General, very nonpartisan office. And I can hope that whoever does get elected returns more to that Gregoire model of being a less partisan AG.
Well, this is all words until we get the numbers, isn't it? So that's why we get to sit tight here as we continue to look more towards we're about 20 minutes away from the first dropping of the numbers.
Yeah, and still ahead, our election coverage again just getting started. Our team breaks down why Washington uses that top two-party system, plus a look at voter turnout and what this could mean for candidates.
Right now on Cairo 7 News.
Right now, more than 33,000 union workers are voting on measures that could bring Boeing production to a halt, crippling the entire airline industry. Union officials expect members to vote down the deal and strike, and if they do, workers could walk off the job as early as tomorrow.
Now, the machinists who build Boeing's planes have had the same contract for 16 years. They've been negotiating for better pay, benefits, and a promise from Boeing that they'll keep building planes here in Washington. Now, the proposed deal includes a 25% pay increase over 4 years, also a signing bonus, and again, a promise to build the next commercial jet in Washington. But workers say the deal falls short. There is a very real possibility they reject it, and we will know after the voting ends at 7 o'clock. Now, they may strike at Boeing plants around the greater Seattle region, including in Renton and Everett. Cairo 7's Brandon Thompson is live right now in Everett with where the vote stands and what's coming up next. Brandon.
Yeah, we're hearing from many employees who are frustrated over what that contract proposal is. If a strike is authorized by 2/3 of Boeing employees, that will happen as the clock strikes midnight tonight. Live in Everett, Brandon Thompson, Cairo 7 News.
So going in depth here, the last contract agreement for Boeing workers was back in 2008. It followed a 2-month strike. Wall Street analysts estimate it cost the company more than $2 billion in profits. Now, Boeing reopened negotiations on that contract twice in 2011 and 2013. The union agreed to major concessions, including raising the amount employees pay for health care and ending the traditional pension program in exchange for agreeing to keep airplane production in Washington state. Now, in the next half hour, we're going to dive into how a strike could affect you, how much it would cost the company, and also what it would cost employees. Now on Cairo 7 News at 5, Hurricane Milton is taking aim at Tampa Bay, bringing massive storm surges and turning debris from Helene into projectiles.
So all this is going to be pretty much missiles coming through.
This as people here in the Evergreen State travel thousands of miles away to help out those in need.
Plus, Prime Day is here, but are these deals actually saving you money? Our investigative team puts the prices under the microscope.
Then, states are taking action against TikTok. What the latest accusations mean for your child's safety on the app.
And a hit and run caught on 3 cameras. The hunt for the woman behind the wheel.
Cairo 7 News at 5 starts right now.
Massive. Hurricane Milton has strengthened again to a major Category 5 storm. Winds around 165 miles per hour. The storm expected to make landfall in Florida late tomorrow. The message now, leave or die. That is the dangerous message, or that's the message Florida officials are getting out. Just how dangerous this storm is.
Yeah, you can see it right here in this video behind us. It's not just the speed, but the sheer size of Milton that makes it so catastrophically dangerous. And new video, let's look at it here. From inside the storm gives us a front row seat to both of those qualities. My goodness, experienced hurricane hunters getting just tossed around as they work to collect data.
This is the last full day to get out. The rush really on from Naples to Orlando. Traffic at a standstill as people are trying to get out of those mandatory evacuation areas. Manuel Bojorquez in Orlando showing us the chaos.
Manuel Bojorquez reporting there, and our coverage does not stop there. The Cairo 7 team is tracking where the storm could hit in Florida, and the people in Washington working to help. So let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Morgan Palmer. This is a monster, Morgan.
Right, and the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center, we'll get these every 3 hours. Eventually, we'll get them every hour, but right now, still a Category 5 hurricane. I don't expect a big change in intensity really until we get into tomorrow. It will start to eventually encounter some wind shear That's stronger wind aloft that tends to tear apart and disorganize the weather system. But as that happens and it approaches Florida, yes, it goes from a Category 5 to likely a Category 3 around landfall, but the overall wind field will start to spread out as that happens, and that means that the storm surge is going to be much more widespread than it might if it stayed a very compact and very small storm. So this is going to be an extremely dangerous event along the west coast of Florida. There are some similarities in the evolution of this with Hurricane Katrina, which was a Category 5 but made landfall as a Category 3. And we remember way back then how much damage that did to such a huge part of the Gulf of Mexico coastline. Storm surge, it's what happens when the actual water level rises ahead of a storm. We could see storm surge of 10 to 15 feet near and just south of where this goes ashore. I'm looking more at this storm and also the problems it'll cause inland coming up.
Yeah, a lot of damage on the way, and more than 100 volunteers from Washington are on their way to help after Milton.
Yeah, KIRO 7's Jake Chapman is live at SeaTac where volunteers took off Monday. Jake, this will not be an easy trip.
It won't be an easy or a quick trip, Monique and Aaron, but if you were to talk to Washington Task Force 1 or the American Red Cross when it comes to the distance these volunteers are traveling, well, they'll tell you that doesn't matter. What matters here is that there are people from far and wide wanting to help out in any way they can. And I know what you're wondering, how can we back here who aren't traveling all the way to the coast volunteering our time to help out with this disaster relief? Well, you can go to the Red Cross's website and you can look up specifically to donate to those still struggling from Hurricane Helene, and they're still waiting for more donations as they're gearing up for a very long few weeks. Live outside SeaTac International Airport, Jake Chapman, KIRO 7 News.
An important mission ahead. Jake, thank you. As Hurricane Milton gets closer to the coast, stick with KIRO 7. We'll be tracking the storm's movements and bring you the live coverage as it makes landfall. Now at 5, fear on the freeway. Sheriff's deputies capture a man suspected of shooting multiple people up and down I-5.
Stop! Get down to your knees. Put your hands behind your head. Cross your legs. Do not move.
That tense arrest caught on body camera, and tonight we're learning new details about that man as authorities trying to figure out his motive. Thanks for joining us. I'm Aaron Wright.
I'm Monique Mingalava. Now, authorities say at least 7 people were hurt. 2 of them are in critical condition right now. There were 6 reported shootings over 2.5 hours, all of them on I-5. They're marked right there by the red dots, and they span from Seattle to Fife. Now, KIRO 7 is bringing you live team coverage on this rapidly growing investigation. Deborah Horn is standing by after speaking with one of the victims. But first, we want to get to Madeline Ottley. She is live outside State Patrol headquarters in Bellevue. And Madeline, you just got an update on that arrest.
Yeah, we know that a man was arrested tied right now to at least 4 of those shootings. But Washington State Patrol at this time still not ruling out the possibility that other people might be involved. They say they believe that all these victims were randomly targeted. And Perkins is being held in King County for assault. If you saw or heard anything that seemed out of the ordinary that might have been involved in these shootings, let Washington State Patrol know, or even if you might have considered yourself a victim as well. For now, reporting live in Bellevue, Madeline Ottley, KIRO 7 News.
So many lives impacted by this violence. Madeline, thank you. We turn our coverage now to KIRO 7's Deborah Horn live in Tukwila after speaking with a South Seattle man caught up in the middle of all this.
Yeah, and Deborah, he showed you truly just how close those shots came to possibly killing his wife and kids.
So very close, Monique. Tantalizingly, scarily close. Now, he says he believes it is up to lawmakers to make sure the laws are stiff enough to hold anyone who does this very dangerous thing. And we know how dangerous it is right here on the highway to hold that person accountable. Reporting live in Tukwila, Deborah Horn, KIRO 7 News.
Hopefully those kids are too young to truly understand. Thank you, Deborah. And going in depth here, we have seen this before, not on the scale, though. In February, troopers responded to back-to-back shootings on I-5 in King County.
We're on the I-5 Seattle. We just, someone shot at our car, and
one of our passengers is injured.
Now, thankfully, that person was not hit by a bullet. State troopers say the bullet went through the window and shattered glass cut the passenger's arm. No one was hurt in the other shooting. The most recent freeway shootings add to more than a dozen reported this year. You can find all our coverage on KIRO 7.